Hello, welcome to the pandemic double feature. Got appropriate shirt on. Um, so it's kind of funny coincidence. This was the last movie I bought. This movie pack, which I got at Dollar Tree, and then I got COVID last Saturday, so I've been very miserable all week. This is the best I felt. Still not good. 0 out of 10. Do not recommend. I do recommend these movies. Um, they are better than COVID. Um, yeah. So probably gonna jump around a bit. Spoilers for both movies. I'm gonna probably ruin some things in my ranting. Outbreak was made in the 90s. I think late 90s. I could be wrong. This might be the same monkey from, if you guys can even see it, from, Night at the Museum or a relative. I'm not sure. Um, yeah, the monkey is what spreads it to people. Um, it's they keep saying it's like hemorrhagic fever or something, but yeah, so they were like doing testing on these monkeys, and then the security was so great that at the facility that Patrick Dempsey, Dr. McDreamy, he just straight up steals the little monkey, the like patient zero monkey. Um, he just steals it and then he sells it to a pet store. So now both him and the pet store guy get sick with this nasty disease. Um, because the monkey scratches the pet store guy, and then Patrick Dempsey just releases the capuchin monkey, who's supposed to be from Africa in the movie. Guess what species aren't native to Africa? Capuchins. They are native to South America, so it'd already be weird that they captured these monkeys in Africa. Just saying. Um, Anyways, so he releases it to like Southern Cali, as you do. Um, Anyways, so the monkey got him sick, and he just flies home and gets his girlfriend sick because he's like coughing the whole time on the plane, and everybody's like, "Oh, he's sick." Normal reaction. Everybody else on the plane is fine. No, he gets home, sees his girlfriend, and is like, "Oh, I missed you so much." Like, he's just like, death warmed over kind of look, and she's like, "Oh, I missed you," and then there's full French kiss. It's like, why did none of you people have sense? Um, and then like he dies from the disease, and she's like, "Jimbo, no!" And it's like, his name's Jimbo, lady. Like, it's not a great loss. Um, she dies shortly thereafter too. So, um, but then there's the pet store guy. He also dies in like the little town he was living in, and then they just have this like centrifuge test running, and the lab tech who's running it, no mask, no eye protection. It was like, "Oh, that was a weird noise," like of a vial breaking. Just opens the lid, puts his head right over it, because it's still on, still spinning, and yeah, a bunch of blood just explodes right on his face. And Then he goes to his boss and is like, oh, well, will I be okay? And he's like, yeah, you're fine. So, of course, like, no precaution of any sort, that guy goes to a full movie theater and is just sitting there coughing everywhere. It did do a really cool shot of, like, the little particles of sickness, like, hitting everybody else in the theater. That was cool in the movie, but he's just sitting there going, just coughing up a lung, which sadly has been my experience working at a movie theater, that people will just do that. And then he's like, oh, I'm thirsty. I'm gonna go get something from the lobby. So he gets up, and the lobby is full. This is like an obvious, like, one auditorium theater. Like, why are there all these people in this lobby? Where the hell are they gonna go? So yeah, so then he dies after infecting everyone. And yeah, there's also, like, all this drama about the military in the Outbreak movie, like, kind of that they had engineered this pestilence, but it doesn't really make sense, like, or a related pestilence, and they're trying to keep it quiet because it's a perfect weapon, but it doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. It makes sense from filmmakers who would tell you a capuchin monkey is from Africa. One thing in the movie, though, is there's a scene with the president, and he cares very much about this little town that they've had to quarantine, and that there are American citizens. He doesn't care anything about the economy or anything, just the lives of American citizens. And that was, shall we say, quaint and dated based off the last few years. But yeah, it's very 90s. It's very silly. There's, like, helicopter stunts, and it's like, why is this in this movie? Oh yeah, and Kevin Spacey's in this movie, and if you don't like Kevin Spacey, he dies. So, that's nice. Relatedly, if you don't like Gwyneth Paltrow, she dies in the first 20 minutes of Contagion. Yeah, she's like the patient zero of that movie. The whole movie is basically because she went on vacation and couldn't wash her hands after meeting a chef and, like, shaking his hands. Spoilers. But it's like, yeah, I feel like Contagion is, like, halfway there to being a good movie, but it's still very Hollywood. Like, and also, like, I feel like the timeline is too fast. Like, they were complaining to the CDC people, or World Health Organization. They're like, oh, why don't you have a treatment for this yet? And, like, if you look at how many days since patient zero, it's like 3 weeks, and it's like, of course they don't have a... Yeah, they were asking them for a vaccine, and it's like, it's been 3 weeks. Like, what the hell? But yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow was, like, cheating on her husband, Matt Damon. Honestly, these could have been, like, the roles could have been reversed, and it would have... I don't know. Like, we don't know what Matt Damon does for a living. They just have this, like, is he a stay-at-home dad? We don't even know. And he's just kind of this upper middle-class guy, and you just get snippets of his life, and they keep focusing, like, they'll show the, like, scientist people, and then they keep coming back to him, to Patient Zero's husband, and it's like, because they think the upper middle class white guys must have the typical experience going on. That's unique for movies. But I don't know, I just found it kind of frustrating, like, because they briefly mentioned, like, oh, we can't close schools because who's going to stay home with kids? All the people who work in hospitals and stores. Just one line in the whole movie. And it never shows, like, they mention the schools closing, but they never talk about, like, distance learning or just trying to homeschool your kids. None of that is touched on. So, like, you just don't know. Like, it's like, why are we talking about, why do we keep showing Matt Damon? Oh, and in this movie, like, I swear one of the main symptoms of the disease is nobody can cover their goddamn face when they cough. I mean, so the other one too, but I feel like it's more frustrating in Contagion because it's like everybody in this movie knows they're in a pandemic world. They know they're in a pandemic situation, and they'll still be standing. Oh, and in the movie they say stand 10 feet away, and everybody's standing like 2 feet away, so that tracks. But they'll just be standing there, just coughing on everybody. There's even one point where there's a line at a pharmacy, and a lady says, "Could you cover your mouth?" And of course, they call her names and tell her to shut up, and it's like, well, you could cover your mouth. But yeah, so some of this movie is very Hollywood. Other bits are like weirdly prophetic. Jude Law has like a blog, right? Like he starts talking about this disease before anybody else. And then he like starts promoting this one medicine in the movie that's called Forsythia, and other people like confront him like there's absolutely no evidence that this does anything for the disease, for the contagion. And he like insists like, no, I had it and I survived fine and it helped me. And I'm like, that's kind of weird that you guys called the ivermectin stuff almost a decade earlier. But yeah, I'd say if you need to watch one or the other, I'd say Contagion is definitely a better film. But yeah, it still, in my opinion, leaves a bit to be desired. Yeah, and then, there's this one lady, who's played by, Marion Cotillard. She's like the lady from other movies. I'm drawing a blank. She's in the last, Christopher Nolan Batman. Anyways, she's like working for the World Health Organization, trying to like track everybody that Gwyneth Paltrow came in contact with, like into Asia, to try to figure out where this stuff came from. And then she just gets kidnapped by this town, and they're like, okay, we're kidnapping you to make sure that we can get moved up in line for the vaccine that's not developed yet in the movie. And then it just doesn't mention her again for like a half hour, and then it comes back and they're like, oh yeah, we developed a vaccine, so they do a hostage trade. And it's like, this is kind of one of those, like, I feel like we could have followed her more than Matt Damon. Just showing Matt Damon going to a grocery store and getting coughed on, which, oh no. Yeah, a lot of this was just Matt Damon in his house, too, and it's like, but yeah. Yeah, they didn't, I feel like they just didn't show, like, society, like, realistically collapsing. It just was like, boom, there's garbage bags everywhere. But, like, electricity is still running, so clearly the electricity guys are still showing up for work. But let's not think about that for 2 seconds. I have issues with this movie. Even though I'm like, this is a better movie, but I'm like, eh. But yeah. Oh, and like the president isn't even, like, the executive branch isn't even mentioned till a good 40 minutes into Contagion. And he's just mentioned, he's not shown. Yeah, it's mostly the World Health Organization and the CDC and then Matt Damon, who we don't even know what he does for a living. Who else is in the movie? Oh yeah, and then they get the vaccine, and Lawrence Fishburne, who's like head of the CDC, decides he's gonna give. Oh, and they're all self-administered in this movie, which is like, I'm like, sure, we're just gonna trust people to do it themselves. Okay. So it's self-administered, and then you get a bracelet that says you've been vaccinated. So he decides that he's gonna give his vaccine to some kid, right? Who, we haven't seen this whole movie. He's the kid of the janitor, who has had like 3 lines in this movie. So Lawrence Fishburne, head of the CDC, gives his vaccine to this kid. Fishburne still puts his bracelet on. So you're going around saying that you're vaccinated when you're not, dude. Like, what the heck? Also, there's another point in the movie where Lawrence Fishburne is having a interview with some like CNN guy, saying like, oh, to deal with this disease, we need to do good social distancing. He's literally sitting 2 feet away from the interviewer, and I'm like, could you scoot? Like, their knees are touching. I'm like, guys, back it on up. But yeah, this has been very rambly because I did watch them the other day. A, B, I didn't take any notes, and 3, I'm not feeling 100%, so my brain's kind of just ping, ping, ping. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed me ranting. Maybe give these things a shot if you want. They might be cursed. Because, yeah. Anyways, talk at you later. Happy viewings.